Okay guys, we had a customer bring us this 2024 GMC Duramax. We're gonna do an under the hood mount kit. We're gonna put oil in it, and he even bought some fuel additive. But let's get started. Come here and we'll unpackage this. So everything comes pre-packaged, right? So you have these two, it'll go on the bottom of the filter, in and out, and hook to those. You got bolts that bolt the bracket to the secondary alternator mount. So if you have a secondary alternator or a dual CP3 pump, you can't do an under the hood. You have to do a frame mount. Return port, together. That's the adapter into the oil pan, and that's the fitting that goes into it. So we'll take the oil pan plug out, and you keep that. This is your pressure port. So we'll take a plug out of the filter housing above the filter, and we'll put the adapter in, and then that will go to the hose. So together is how they normally come, and then your hose, and your housing's in here. All right. Installing the bracket. See the two holes over here? Here and here. I removed this support here for this wiring harness. I'm just gonna pull it over here, and I'll get it zip tied up here out of the way. But I just put these supplied bolts for a 15mm head on them. The right pitch and thread. It's warm on my arm. Okay. Then we'll run our hoses to and from here so that we can stick that filter right down in there. Because this is a return to the oil pan, because of the crankcase ventilation system, I'm just gonna take my hose, now that I've got that bracket installed, I'm just gonna run my hoses kind of where I want them to be, because they'll start and return pretty close to each other. So this is just a little bit of a step ahead of what you'd normally do, just so I don't have to go up and down on the lift. Might be better to come up through the top from underneath. Oh yeah, that way I'll be able to find both ends and get them to where they need to be. So I just have it wrapped around the bracket so it doesn't fall through. I can't pull one out. We're gonna drain the oil. This is a 15mm. I've already broke it loose, so it's gonna come off pretty easy. I'm trying not to burn my fingers. I've already got this hose end on here. It's got the 1/8 inch NPT. I just did it right here. You don't have to have a vise. The other thing I want to show you, so this is the adapter to the oil pan. It's got an O-ring. Can you see that? Those are inch pounds, not foot pounds. This is almost hand tight. It's just a little bit tighter than hand tight. They're aluminum fittings. They're not going to leak. I'm going to install the 90 on the adapter first, because these are tapered pipe threads. And then this is a straight thread with a sealing ring that gets torqued. Because if you put this adapter into your oil pan first, and you torque it to 60 inch-pounds, and then you start reefing on this one to get the pipe threads into the adapter, you'll break that. So, there's pipe threads. Didn't need to be real tight. They're tapered, and there's thread sealant on them. So here, I was gonna end up running it like this. I'll have to zip tie all that up later. We're just getting it to where it'll quit dripping oil on me down here. So because these 90s are swivels, you can do this. So we had a company notice our torque wrenches and offered to send us some. So Precision Built Torque Wrenches sent us some free torque wrenches. Thanks guys. So we're gonna torque this to 60 inch-pounds, and that's it. Now I don't break it, it won't break it because it's only at 60 inch-pounds. This will I'll route this up here away from the drive line, zip tie it up here next to these other lines, like that. So it's out of the way. So now we're gonna pull, this is a 10mm Allen socket right here, if I can get it in there. This is where your pressure port's coming out of, just above your filter. We took the plug out of the filter housing. We're gonna stick our adapter in. 20mm by 1.5 is the thread. So I've got it up in there started, and I'm just gonna, this will be on the end of your hose, and it'll go onto here, and we will run that up to the bottom of the filter housing to the in port. Okay, so I had the hose, strung it all the way up where I was gonna put it. I marked it with some tape, where I'm gonna put the other fitting that goes into the bottom of the filter housing in the in port. So here I have these nice fancy pliers that's gonna cut this. In my shop, when I'm doing it at my house, what I end up doing is I have a cutoff wheel on a grinder, and you mark it with the tape, and then you cut it right in the middle of the tape with the cutoff wheel. And then you blow out the hose, so you get all of the fragments of crap that end up inside of it. You blow it all out and get rid of it so it's nice and clean. I don't have a vise, so you just push it on and spin it by hand. And you have to make sure you get it all the way in there. It's a little tough, but you can do it. You don't actually have to spin it. Spinning it just helps it. Okay, so you can see the hose is right at the bottom of the threads there. And then you just dip a little bit of oil on the tip of that, spin it in. I can get most of the way there just by hand until I have to get my 3/4 inches or 19mm wrenches to finish them off, just until they touch. So now I'll run that back up to the top. That'll be at the bottom of the filter housing into the end port with thread sealant. Again, you just put a little bit of oil on there. This is a swivel fitting, so you can't just spin it on the swivel. You have to grab the nut. Make sure it's not pushing the hose out of the nut here. But again, I can get pretty close just by hand, just until they touch. Run this up from the pressure port that we installed at the filter, and then we'll put the other end of the other fitting on it that goes into the filter housing once we measure and cut it again. This is the side that comes out of the filter and the out port and runs into the bottom of the oil pan. But I'll run that up to where the bottom of the filter is, and I'll route it to where it stays out of the drive line here, out of the yoke, and off of anything hot. But since we're here, let's run this one up as well. This is definitely easier on a lift, but I've done it under my own truck in my own shop, so I feel your pain. Okay, spin that 90 on there. I don't know if you can see that. So you got the 90 on the adapter here, and then the hose is gonna run up to the bottom of the filter housing to the in port. I'm not gonna tighten this one. I'm just gonna temporarily run it so that I can put the fitting on the other end after I get the length of hose I need. Put some new oil on that O-ring on this little baby filter. It's sitting, so because this is sitting sideways, I'm not gonna pre-fill the oil filter because it'll just dump out. It's not that big of a filter anyway, so you're not gonna be without oil for very long. All right, so that's tight. These are tight. I'm gonna zip tie that. So I left that 90 down there loose so that I could take this hose out and do the fitting, do the hose fitting on it. I decided against it, so I have to go down there and tighten it, even though I'm gonna be able to put this hose end on right here. So you can see the rubber right at the bottom of the threads. Mostly by hand. Gets a little tricky when you're in the engine compartment or underneath things, but it's all doable just until they touch. I've got my pressure side coming off next to my fitting, next to my filter. Then I return, and they'll come up right into the bottom of the filter housing. So now I need the thread sealant. This is my in hose. That's the one that I left that 90 down there loose, thinking I was gonna have to take this hose off. A little bit of thread sealant. Put this in the in port. Okay, so that's the in. There we go. Started. We've got our new precision built torque wrench, 122 inch-pounds. I took the center bolt out of the filter housing to hold it as a backup. Okay, this fancy dancy thing. So now I have to lower it and put less. This thing is really wimpy. So I'm gonna drop this down a little bit without squishing the wire loom. I'm gonna double check it. Oh yeah, that'll work. Just tighten it back up. Filters in it. You've got an O-ring inside the lid. There's an O-ring inside the washer. Make this all fancy. Put this on here. We're gonna torque it to 35 foot-pounds. Well, actually, we're gonna go a little less than 35 because it's not hot. So 30 to 35 foot-pounds, 35 if you're at 180 degrees, right there. Now we can fill it with oil. After I tighten that 90 it's underneath. Remember that 90 I left loose? I'm gonna tighten it up before we fill it with oil and start it. See that? Shake well. Good truffles. All right, so we're gonna do 11 quarts. Some capacity's 10, but with the X2, it's a whole nother quart added to it. So I shook it well. This is fun. Clear back here in the back. It's too oily. Oh, there we go. Everything looks good. We filled it with 11 quarts. We started it. We ran it until the filter, because normally you have it returning to your fill cap, but because of the crankcase ventilation system, we can't do that. So it's going back to the drain plug. So because I can't take the cap off and see how much is flowing, I just feel this filter housing, and when it starts getting warm, I know that it's full of warm oil. And so we ran it until it got warm, shut it off, checked the oil. We ended up having to add another half a quart, but we are right at the top, but it's also been sitting for a minute. So there's some residual that came out of this canister that's flowing back into the engine. So that's one thing that to be aware of when you're checking your oil, is that if you've let it sit for too long after running, the oil from your canister can flow back into your tank, into your sump, and give you a false high reading.